My given name is Jacob Roger R. Jacob Roger before. Now, Jacob is after a grandfather, Fleagle. He used to build barns down around Mayberry. He had main barn builder. He used to walk up on a ridge pole and attach the stringers and stuff like that. And he also built about 3 or 4 brick houses around Mayberry, the main street in Mayberry. Some of those houses are still there.
This was your grandfather?
Yeah, my grandfather. He was Jacob Fleagle, and so that's where I got the Jacob from, they both came from the Bible anyway.
Yeah.
So,
and what was your father? Your father's name was?
Maurice Monroe, called Sam, because he was just a devotee of Sam Hahnemann, who was the head of the Hahnemann's medicine thing, that the guys used to call him Sam. That's where.
And that was where your father studied to become a doctor?
Yeah, both he and my Aunt Roberta, his sister, they both studied homeopathy.
They both studied at Hahnemann?
At Hahnemann, yeah, in Philadelphia. So that's the way they got off the farm.
So your grandfather had a farm then in Mayberry? Or?
Yeah. Now, you know where Stoner lives now, right?
Right.
That is the farmhouse that he lives in now. Behind that, there is a dog run where the hill slopes up a little. They raised beagle dogs. So naturally, I got into Ripley's column. And believe it or not, here's the sign pointing from the main room this way to Fleagle's Beagles. You know, it actually was there. I saw that too. And I think the big barn is still where it was, the large barn. There's a pond as you come in to the right, and then is the big barn still there? I think so.
At Stoner's? Or,
yeah, where Stoner lives now. That was.
Yeah, the barn is off to the right, yeah.
Yeah. So that was the main nucleus of that farm. But the farms all ran together there. There are more Fleagle farms and Fosdick farms. Stoner was Marie Stoner. I was at their wedding when she was married to Edgar. When she and Edgar were married.
So her maiden name was Spender.
Stoner, yeah.
Her son after her maiden name.
And they had big farms too.
So your father and your aunt went to college?
They both went to Philadelphia, Hahnemann.
And so your father set up as a doctor in Hanover then? Or?
Yeah, they both did. She for female, and because at that time women were nervous about going to male doctors, so they worked in the same home down York Street in Hanover. Pictures, I have some pictures here to show you. I can show you, give you an idea of that house and the house that Ellen lived in.
Yeah, actually I think Stoner took me by there one time when I was down there.
Yeah.
He took us up to Hanover, and I think he did point out the house that you had...
yeah, well, I was just very glad to see him. He took us both down to Mayberry.
Can you tell me something about your aunt? I've heard stories about her being a medical missionary in China.
Right. The Methodist Church hired her for 7 years to go to China as a medical missionary. Date-wise, I can't tell you. I know it was probably around middle 20s or later. And she got there in North China, and China was such a mess as far as, that was warlord time there. And she had a friend who was a warlord. I have a picture down the attic down there. He also had left her epaulets and a collar. It was gold. Stitched, it was so thick, a heavy collar. But he lost once and was beheaded. And anyway, those things were down in Hanover. And they've been liberated now. I can't find them. So what she did, she had Fleagle a lot. And the first child that was born was a boy, a male. So that was good for her. And she taught boiling water and sanitary things like that, and helped to clean up. And she saved a lot of people. So they liked her enough, and the conditions were still bad enough that after her 7 years were over, she still stayed there on her own for 2 more years, which they appreciated. And I have some banners that they sent her off with. They're down in Hanover too. Sometime we'll have to meet down there and go through some of that junk when you have time. But those things should stay on the Fleagle side of the family because they don't mean anything to anybody else.
Yeah.
And she also was liked enough that they're important people came to Washington. They come by Hanover and see her.
Mm.
She spoke the dialect of Chinese, and she also wrote very well in Chinese. She learned to write very well. So she got right in respect of what do you call being absorbed by the people. She liked the people, they liked hers, and she helped them. So some of these banners, many of them are very poor people. Some of them have like a fringe that's made with a little piece of tape, and the whole fringe, a big banner, and all individual names that all put contribution in to help buy this piece of silk. That's how poor they were.
Mm.
And she performed a valuable service. And some of these things here, some of these things that she brought back.
Do you still have relatives in Hanover? Or?
My sister, my half-sister.
Uh-huh.
But she really, we don't go by stepsister. She's Ellen, 20 years younger.
Uh-huh.
So she's not a child. She's about 60 now.
Uh-huh.
And she's got her one house. And the house was my father's and my grandfather built. Has been cut up into 4 apartments, which my father cut up. He had a stroke about 71 when he was about that age. And he cut up into 4 apartments, which is where if we go down there, we'd probably be living in one of them. It's a good solid house, one of the best houses around there. So, one thing at a time. First we do here. The only thing that keeps us going to Hanover is we're not working that much here. That's not what holds us here. But the few connections that we have are here. I left Hanover about 1923. And I was back for a while because I had to come back on account of school stuff. But outside of that, I don't really have any connections there. All my connections are here and West Coast and stuff.
So what did you do when you left Hanover in 1923? What did you leave?
I was playing banjo, and better than I knew, because I was about 18, maybe 17. So all of a sudden I was hired. I didn't know why they hired me, but they hired me because I was good.
Somebody who saw you in Hanover hired you, or?
Yeah, well, we're not very far from York, you know. And Les Staux is the was the big wheel in the Spring Garden Band yet, which is still a great band. And somewhere or other he heard and said, well, the Florida real estate boom was just beginning. So they're sending 5 orchestras down there, 5 little bands, 1 big band, 1 10-piece band. Al Hollander from New York had a good, he was with Kibler's big band originally. I won't get all these names in there because the people I'm talking about are all gone. So they want me. But there was a big band and there were 4 other little bands. And they took 1 intact from Lancaster and 1 was made up in New York, which is the one I went. So I got paid and only worked 3 nights a week, and I made more than I did as a soda jerker working in the clothing store. The right price for high school kids at that time was $4 a week. So I got down there and we got room and board and $45.
45 a week?
Yeah.
And you had been making $4 a week?
Yeah.
And you got room and board on top of that?
Yeah.
And you were 18?
About 17.
And this was 1923?
Yeah.
Mm.
When I was class of 24, I never stayed around and graduated. So, and not only that, the bosses, Grantham brothers from North Carolina, they owned the piece of boardwalk and the gambling casino and a lot of beach and stuff. And they all had cars, and whenever they looked for a car, it was missing. So they just bought us a Dodge car of our own. And then we could work. We worked Sundays, we only worked afternoon concert. There's no dancing. The other days, I forget, weeknights were the big ones, 3 nights a week. And the other 3 nights we could go out and job around at country clubs and stuff. So.
And what town was this in Florida?
This is St. Pete. It's a beach that's attached. It's the closest thing to St. Pete. It's an island, small island. And Pass Grill was the name of it. I'm trying to think of these names now, jumping back to that time.
How long did you stay there?
We were only hired there for the winter run. And that's the longest job we ever had playing anyway. No, the rest of it was one night dance halls and things. So
what'd you do after that winter?
Well, I came back, and by this time, Hollander had a big band that worked out of York all the time. He always had good bands. So you got good money with him, and whenever I came back to Hanover, he knew sometime when I was back, he'd call me up and I'd go to work. I guess the other banjo players hated to see me come to town. I know. By the time you go to work, you go to work. So I had a long experience with him, with good bands. He's a good leader. But he wouldn't go east of Philadelphia. People coming down from New York and wanted from New York for the dance halls here. No. Well, these 3 brothers, there were 3 of them, were like the Pep Boys, and they started those accessories stores. They had a chain, which at that time was 3 or 4 other stores, different. So they were money coming in. And he didn't want to walk away from it. And we had cars. We used to drive around when the Packard Straight 8 came out. We had 2 red ones, the 10-piece band, 5 guys in each car. We didn't carry our own instruments. We had an instrument truck with a band boy that took the stuff down, and we got on the stand and set it all up. It was all, we didn't have to do anything. And it was classic, which is a good idea. But that was some of the best times that we had musically. The band was pretty good. We came back, and in Hollander, we worked with the Hollander band. And whatever happened, I was not out of work very long. The minute I ran down to Baltimore, and I got a job in a nightclub down there. It was a fancy place. Chateau was a rooftop club, summertime, closed, and no hours. You went to work about 10 o'clock, and then you were at work for dawn, later, depending on the party, because it was all, the wealthy people came to the club, racetrack guys, when they were in the thing, and mobsters. It was during Prohibition then. So, all kinds of money around, also a little cute. You get in a small elevator with a couple of the guys from opposing groups having an argument, and they all got guns. You know, you see how small you can make yourself in the corner. And that was the Prohibition part. That job lasted, I forget. In the scrapbook I have a letter of recommendation from a leader, the job 5. He'd been there something like 7 or 9 years, and he said, I knew this job wouldn't last. But that was exceptional. Then I was already established in Baltimore as being employable. So from there I heard about Sam Robbins was taking a vaudeville band out, auditioning. It's called the Baltimoreans. We already had the Warring's Pennsylvanians, and we already had Frank Weingar's Pennsylvanians, I think, also. And Horace Height was just around, had just started up in the Californians. The Baltimoreans, we went out. We did 10 weeks of small time, which was more or less an audition, you know. We stepped right into big time vaudeville. We went out for 3 years. And you really worked, and you weren't even off Sundays except a couple blue towns like Baltimore, Philadelphia.
What years were those?
Oh. Well, I have that in a scrapbook too.
But that would have been in the
I'm
20s?
trying to think.
In the 20s, would that have been?
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah,
take 3 years off of 30, you're getting close. It's around 1930. Then from then on, I was always working, except when the big depression was here. I moved out to California. We'd just been married when the depression really was affecting us. Before that, I had all beachcombing jobs like California, West Coast, and Bermuda, and things like that. I got a lot of swimming, not much money, a good tan.
But you were still playing music then?
Oh yeah, no, this is all I was doing. Oh, the whole time. Well, by that time I worked in big time vaudeville with Nick Lucas, who was a guitar singer, and I helped him with his entrances and stuff on stage. For this, he taught me some guitar. He already was a pretty good guitar player, he was, and he showed me some things for that. So then I added a guitar to my string, and I was already trying to write. I'm trying to get the sequence right. Oh. Well, I was either trying to write, and I'd already been to Peabody Institute, or I came back and went to Peabody Institute to get help with the writing. So it gradually developed like that. And the writing gradually took over, so by 1949, I couldn't keep up on the instrument anymore. So I put the instruments under the bed where they still are. As you can see, I got no calluses. They would hurt my fingers to play. Anyway, the writing took over then. After about 2 years, couldn't keep up. I got a good reputation on the instrument, so it was do one or the other, you know, make up your mind. So it wasn't easy to do, but we did it.
When you say writing, I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that.
Well, basically, many people in my position who are players, performers with the bands, they started writing for the guys they're surrounded with. Sometimes small groups, 3 or 4 people. Sometimes 10 was about, that was big in those days, you know. Unless you ran into Whiteman or something who carried like 30 or 40 people. And who I eventually made a couple arrangements for too. So making arrangements for the thing is a matter of organizing what we're going to do tonight.
I see.
And it helps to be organized, believe me. And so I did some of that, and I kept doing it.
So that was sort of like arranging a part of the
Well, you do. You take a given, if you make up a tune. If you think if something comes to you, or you give us a tune that's printed like Sweet Sue, which was a popular thing at the band were playing, or Tiger Rag, which was the opposite. Sweet Sue, a little sweet melodic tune, Tiger Rag, and put these notes down, distribute them for the guys, so that if you don't have excellent musicians, they're going to be given better notes to match their counterpoint and the counterparts. And it's permitted, it gave you a lot more room. It became symphonic in nature, really, because the amount of people involved, and more interesting.
So who were some of the people that you wrote for?
Well, I came into New York with my father. He had an X-ray laboratory in Hanover, private one, which is unusual that period. So he needed to get equipment up here. I came in here. Jimmie Lunceford was a wild band playing at the Cotton Club uptown. Now they made a picture called the Cotton Club today, which vaguely resembles it, but they've monkeyed with it a lot, you know, to make it more dramatic or more whatever. So he was there, and I had received a letter from him about a year before, when I was working with Orville Knapp. I was writing for the band and also playing with the band. On the West Coast, that's what you call a society band. In other words, we played in fancy rooms and not too much jazz. So that was Knapp. Then I came here and I found this letter from Lunceford saying send some arrangements. I came up here, I grabbed a couple of arrangements, took them up when I drove my father up. I got up to the Cotton Club and they were rehearsing that day. Talk about luck, you know, because they didn't rehearse every day, all day. So I made the contact with him, and he took 3 arrangements, I think. That were already done. They weren't made for his band specifically, but they matched the fitted combination. That started here. Well, when that happened, I decided I'd come to New York now.
When was that? What year was that?
Well, I was 34. This I can remember. It was right in the middle of the Depression, so-called, and it was for us. And we had 5 jobs in 5 years, and each one of them lasted 5 weeks. So, and the rest of it was scratch and scuffle as you work wherever you could and whatever you could. So that's the way we came in here. This is where it was at that period. film music at that period was good for symphony players, for large orchestra people. They had the union scale was so low that they could hire very many people to make a score. And this particular time, sound had not even been added, sort of was simultaneous with film. So that was relatively new. The Times are somebody's gonna say, this guy don't know what he's talking about, because, no, the Times don't match exactly what I say 34. Sound had already been around. Al Jolson had already done a jazz singer when I was still in Baltimore with the vaudeville band. So then after that, I did Lunceford, 3 arrangements, and he asked me how much I wanted for him, and I said, if you copy them yourself, it's $15. So he said, how can you do that? Why do you want to do it? I said, so I can tell people I wrote for your band, which is the truth. And he kept seeing me years after that. I say, well, you got to bring some more arrangements around, you know. But that gave me a little, a foot on the ladder. Then I worked for bands around here. Who did I work for? So there's so many of them, I can't. Well,
I saw a lot of pictures out here. I figured you must have.
Well, all those people I worked with there, I also did. I worked for Casa Loma. I did some arrangements for them. I had not a steady job. It was bring it in and say, how much you want for it? And you say, a peddler. But most of the white bands that were around, they were coming up. They did a lot of rehearsing around here because the prestige of playing a New York hotel or a theater or something would give them a lot of good material to advertise road. So there were a lot of guys like that. Some of them were good. Some of them were Hank B. Genie, I remember I did some records with when he came in. Here it was a Detroit band, good band. And they come in without guitar. A lot of them that didn't carry guitar on the road. Also, Joe Haymes, another good band. He was a good arranger. So these guys would come in without guitar, so I get a guitar gig as well as writing something. Whiteman, Johnny Johnston was a good vocalist. He's still around. And he was working Capitol Theater. And I did 2 arrangements for him that he was to do with Whiteman on stage, which he did. And things like that. You picked it up here and there, mostly around Charlie's Bar, where most of the musicians hung out. That place is long gone now, no relation to Beefsteak Charlie's, which is a different place. Beefsteaks was still around then too, but we just called it Beefsteaks, and the other one was called Charlie's, and so on.
I thought I read in that, it was an Encyclopedia of Jazz or something like that, about you had some, did you do something with Fletcher Henderson?
Oh. Fletcher was the earliest contact I had with black bands. When he was in Baltimore, I was working the Golden Pheasant Chinese restaurant there. And one of the bellboys that knew my work said, you got to hear this band, you know. Well, actually, we'd heard the band while we were in vaudeville because you couldn't get into New York City and not hear Fletcher Henderson's orchestra at the Roseland Ballroom, because he was there 13 consecutive seasons. So he just went on the road in between. Every musician that was worth Goodman, Nifmo, the Dorseys, you name the top. They were always up there. If they had the time, if they were off at the time that band was playing. And opposite on the stand, they had Gene Gocat, who was out of Detroit, who had a fantastic reputation also. And they were good bands, both of them. Fletcher's was absolutely great. So that's his pictures there over there. There's one up on top, first row you see. And I went and was thrilled. And he knew that I liked the band. So we got on a great father-son relationship where I could ask for anything I wanted in a book and he gave it to me. He'd say, we're playing Norfolk day after tomorrow or something. Can you copy it and have it down there? So I'd sit up all night and copy it and get it in the mail down to him. So I got a lot of his arrangements, which I never commercialized on. He knew I wouldn't. I was offered money for people who wanted to use those arrangements. I said, well, it's all right with me. Let's call it Fletcher first. And of course they wouldn't, because he wouldn't give them permission, you know.
So you were doing arrangements for Fletcher Henderson?
Yeah, I did a lot of things. I remember D Natural Blues. I just heard today on a record we were playing called Something Else Now, that he did for Bob Crosby's band. We were playing a record before he came up. And that was the D Natural Blues. He was careless with arrangements sometimes. Anyway, he wanted to do the thing, and he didn't want to bother taking it all off again. So will you take it off for me? So I did things like I took it off the old record that had. So, well, that's the least I could do, you know. Things like that. I did some dictation. And as time went on, he would play some of my things, which is like starting at the top. And then he recorded some of them. Pixie from Dixie, I remember, is one. Mississippi Misses or something like. Anyway, I write things and take them in. And the guys used to tell me, they play 5 shows with a tough brass section. And I'd come in and he'd rehearse my things after. Their lips were hanging down, you know. And boy, we used to hate to see you coming with a little chick. I didn't write very well either. It looked like I wrote with a pencil and quickly. You know, it looked like Chick had walked over the sheet. So after a while, I worked my way out of that. But then that was really my first and biggest and best connection. Lunceford was a nice man to me. Chick Webb, I just went up and worked to get the work, get some work. I didn't get it all. He had other arrangers. The Savoy Ballroom, which was the big ballroom uptown. Had Cecil Scott and his Bright Boys. It's a good band. Used to come in. Cab Calloway's band was. Cab didn't have a band at the time. He'd made a record with Ellington on Tiger Reg. But on the basis of that, he was getting ready to have a band. So they had a band called the Missourians. So that's what that became Calloway's band. Well, anyway, there were more. I was kind of like part of the house band for a couple of years there. Then I got busy. No, we really worked hard. A lot of times I didn't get much sleep. It was natural. You got to pull all those notes down. Well, of course, Whiteman peaked when I did this couple arrangements for Johnny Johnson. Fletcher. Then I finally got a couple, 1938 or 9, before the war was coming. The record company sent Ellington to Europe for a year to get recorded over there. So he needed a lot of stuff for a year's material. And by this time I had friends in the band. One of my best friends, Rex Stewart, great trumpet player, and he came up and he said, "Hey, come on, we got to go where?" He said, the man's recording. And I said, "Okay, what?" You know, he said, "Grab everything you have. Grab your axe, the guitar." Yeah. And that's the way I got a few tunes in there, because they were good enough to be usable. And then,
So did you write the whole song then? Or?
in case a song I wrote for her, "So I'll Come Back for More," Louis Bacon sang, and Ellington, it was the Ellington group. And Solid Rock, which came out under a different name. And if you're intruding, they didn't always give it a nice catchy name that you had. It gives the Solid Rock came out of Smorgasbord and Schnapps, which is not bad stuff. It was anybody here, if people here are aware of what it is.
So those are things songs that you wrote that Ellington's band recorded? Or?
Yeah, that one.
But you didn't get any credit for them on the records?
Yes. What they did, Mills Music was careless. Not Mills Music, but the managers of Irving Mills people were careless of getting the clearance. And they had the records down and had them all pressed and already labeled and everything. They had to change the labels because I wouldn't give them clearance on my tunes. I had them, my tunes were all copyrighted about 10 minutes after I got them and shoved them down to Washington, you know. So
they had to change it to put your name on it?
They said, what do you want? I said, no more dollar a tune. You see, they give you a tune contract, and for $1, you sell them the tune. This is the way you try to get started, you know. So, then he didn't get the $1 either. But anyway, I thought, well, gee, I hate to be mean. I said, you know what I want? I want my name on a label. So that's where a couple of records had my name on, with Rex Stewart, the trumpet player, and Ellington, the leader. Well, that was valuable. That was more valuable than the money.
Sure.
And still is to date, as far as I'm concerned. So that part with Ellington takes care of any rumors or anything about Ellington band. That was a great band also. Fletcher's band was more to my taste. Ellington's band was more with the mutes and jungle growl things. Still great. And Ellington definitely was a great composer. Fletcher Henderson was a great arranger. And there's a difference, and it's too long to go into it. The distribution of the sound, without Fletcher Henderson, Benny Goodman's band would have never sounded like it did. He was the arranger, main arranger for Goodman. It would be a great clarinet player with some kind of a band behind him otherwise. You know what I mean? Now, Ellington composition, he could think of a title and something to go with it, like this, very flying. So, hey Duke, what do you call that in the booth? What's the name of that tune? What do you know name? Say Doodlebug Wrestler. That's what they're going. He had a sense of humor, and it was a great, really genius also. So that was luck. I really was lucky to fall in with this. Then with the black band, I didn't have to go through a lot. Practically every white band that I auditioned for thought, natural thing, oh, look out for my job. This guy's going to grab, you know, not just necessarily writing. I was doing both guitar and stuff. So naturally, you go through a little initiation in that. In the black bands, they would publicly not use the white and black mixed. And so the people in the black band had no fear.
I don't understand what you're saying.
Well, the color. You didn't have white people working with black bands in public.
Right.
You recorded together.
Oh, I see. So you could record with them, but they
Yeah.
didn't want you to play with them.
No, this was the management of the places knew that there was enough bias against this, and Goodman does deserve credit for bringing in Cootie Williams first, breaking the color line there. This is like the equivalent of what happened with Jackie Robinson in baseball. Once the guys saw it, they didn't like it. And once the people saw it, they didn't know whether they liked it or not. And most of the time, if they were just dancing, it sounded better.
Yeah.
Actually, we worked together. But there's a fellow called Milton Misro, was here, clarinet player, and he did some recordings, and he used black and white mix, which is not that secret either if you're trying to conceal something. So everybody knew that. And I came in, I did what we have in Hanover regularly. When people are not doing things, they play music or something. They didn't have television and so on. So we rehearsed a lot together. The thing here has nothing to do except write and let's see how it sounds. So I used a lot of blacks too in the band. Not because they were black, because I could hear their part in my arrangements. And so between Mez and I, and probably a lot of other people I never heard of, that we used the mixed bands a long time ago. But publicly, Goodman did break the line. So anyway, I don't know how we got on that, what we do. So we didn't feel different, and we played, and we got some things. We could have gotten a lot more if I hadn't used such big bands.
Did you have a band of your own?
Well, my band's name is on some records that we made. It was not, I never took them out on the road or played a steady spot with them. So I guess it's not having a band. But
so what, you just made records and maybe played around New York?
records is my ideal thing. Fletcher told me, first of all, when I first was new with the band, with his band, I'd be at rehearsal and everything. He said, you know, aren't rehearsal the best thing of all? I thought, yeah. Well, if that's the case, why not rehearse? No, that's a simple approach to it. And it's more fun working things out and having the guys find their position in that particular number and giving a good conception of it instead of just blowing notes to nowhere. And that, I never regretted that. And there's no, to take a band out was like, with no name, you got to go broken down buses and, you know, the agent $15,000, $20,000 before you even get in the bus. And then depending on how business goes, you have a hard time collecting your money at the end of the night. You have to be able to take a head count. I could look at a ballroom crowd and say there's 3,000 couples there, because they give you the ticket off the roll that they punch to sell the people who come in. They put a new roll in while you're working, and they give you another ticket, about 10 tickets. We didn't sell any tickets, you know. So then you got to fight. And I said, come on, you got 3,000 people here, 3,000 couples. It's the easiest way to count them is count them by couples. It's easy. Well, that's a part of the dance hall routine. But York, down there, they had two good dance halls. Miss Tasha, the Coliseum, was the one that lasted the longest and was the best. There was another one that tried to get going. But York and Pennsylvania and Ohio and southern New York were good dance territory. Regardless of coal miners' strikes or what happened, the people came to the dance hall. It's mostly Saturday night. Mm-hmm. If they were not a blue town and they were open on Sundays, they come Sundays too. We have regular jobs with a band like Halder. What's over the city market in Harrisburg, I forget the name of that, nice big dance hall. We had that every Tuesday night. Miss Tasha's Coliseum in New York, where Halder's band came out of, we had Thursday night steady. These are 2 bad nights in the week. And you stick a country club in here and a country club in there, and Saturday and Sunday we played housewarming at some of the school campuses, University of Richmond, Penn State, blah, blah, blah. Any big school that could afford the band. And he charged for the band. He got as much as Lombardo and more in some cases for the band.
So was this after you had moved to New York?
This is a mishmash. No, after I came to New York, I didn't go back. No, I had to decide. You're not going to do this commuting deal.
Yeah.
And you really can't anyway, because you have to build clientele, and you got to give them service. You got to be around when they want you. Yeah. And they're not going to go hunting for it. Yeah. So that part of it's almost over with me too, because like our birthday, I'll be 80. So the fellow gets tired.
Yeah, sure.
And
well, you have the music copying service. Is that making arrangements for bands?
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
That between my friend Luther Henderson is a good arranger. He arranged for Broadway musicals, various dance bands, vocalists. Vocal people need good arrangements to back them up. And he got typecast as being a vocal arranger, which he is not, but he's very adequate at that. And he does people like, practically any big name. We want to name Gertrude Lawrence, Carol Lawrence, more. I can't think of all the girls. And also men, good top flight vocal. And he's younger, and he's in right now. They're doing industrial for Oldsmobile. So he's got somebody doing what I generally do there. What I do in part, he's got the guy doing the whole job. Very good worker and fine. So I can cut down. Now when if I feel full of beans and strong, I don't feel too strong right now because I had a bad 7, 8 months in the early part of this year, and I don't want to push too hard.
What happened? Did you say you got mugged?
Yeah, it's 7th January.
Around here, or?
No, the Carnegie Tavern, 7th Avenue and 56th Street. Well, the neighborhood has nothing to do with it. Not only that, I hadn't been drinking much because I had a job to do, which I was careless when I went out the door. I didn't look at all. I was heading right for my office, which is close by, to finish up a job. And I had 2 drinks, which is nothing, you know. But bang. So that started off. Right after that, I got the flu, which I didn't get rid of in 2 days, as usual. I hung on for about 5 weeks. After that, I did something else. Anyway, I've lost about 7, 8 months' time, which is what I regret. What they steal, you can replace, you know. You can't get the time back. And I got stuff in conception down there. I do to amuse myself as well as money work. And so.
Is that in Manhattan where your office is? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
West 57th. It's we moved in there in 1947 or 49. I think it's 47, I'm not sure. Anyway, I'd been in and out of this building. This is where the Steinway Piano Company has their showrooms. And they used to have rehearsal halls. I'd been in and out of there. And then the Hot Record Society, which I was involved with, doing a lot of A&R, which is artist representative initial. A&R is, you put this record dates together, you know. It is fun. And we did a lot of that. So they had a stock room up there, it's about as big as this room maybe. And it's got 3 desks in there and some shelving, and we started. And after we were in there about 6 months, the guy we were subletting from doubled the rent. They could see we were working. We were doing. So we got more raises. Nice man, but a practical businessman. So finally we talked to the Steinway people and got our own. We had a whole corner of the building for a while. We were doing a lot, too much. We were doing things like the Paul Whiteman show, the Lucky Strike Hit Parade, energetic shoes, some others selling soap. They sold every kind of cigarettes and soap and shoes and automobiles.
What was that, TV commercials? Or?
Yeah, these are TV shows, not the commercials. Then we got into the commercials later. It was through Lucky Strike that we got into that end. So anyway, we used to have like 8 or 10 people working there, day in and day out, and a lot of times night. We had our own key to the building so that we could let people in and out, bring sandwiches and coffee. And that was on the 8th floor, 802, or 803. 802 is the unit. 803 was that number. Then we got squeezed out of there gradually. The insurance company took the building over and they used more and more space. Well, we galloped to the 16th floor and we got squeezed out of there, and now we're on the 12th floor. And we can't get squeezed anymore. We can reach everything in the office without getting up. It's convenient and it's good. And for what we're doing at the moment, it's all right. But, so sitting up all night and pressure, when you got pressure, you got responsibility. I did a lot of contracting, and under musical conditions, these are the most difficult. As a rule, they never start in time. They plan for three years ahead, I guess, is about average, and they start putting the thing together. By the time they finally get the money, and the money becomes so huge, when I started doing it, you could do one reasonably good for $25,000. Today, 3 million, 5 million, you know. So if you're in an executive position like supervising, you got a lot of responsibility. If through neglect or carelessness, deliberate carelessness, you can be paying off the rest of your life. You'll never be able to pay it off. You know? So that's a little pressure. It not really bothered me because I generally had good people and good cooperation, and I've always had that. But I figure it should have bothered me. It never did.
So you were working, you were writing music for television shows and then for commercials?
We did.
And musical plays?
Yes, this is, none of these jobs are one-man jobs. You cannot, there are times when arrangers do their own copying. Not, those days are gone forever. Arranger cannot do it because he starts scrutinizing his own work, he's correcting his own errors while he's copying it. No, it really is not practical. The same way supervising, you have to be able to estimate each person's speed. And speed is not essential. Accuracy is what counts, accuracy. And to make sure that the right guys, speed-wise, are paired up together. The one guy isn't making the other work. Waste of time is the worst thing to happen. And it's just common sense. It's not hard. But when things do go wrong sometimes.
Well, I know you mentioned the last time I spoke to you on the phone the Broadway play about, was it The Life of Jackie Robinson or Willie Mays, was it?
Oh yes, the first, that was about Jackie's being the first black to get into white Major League Baseball through Mr. Ricky's good offices. And it was a rather good play. The writer, I can't think of it, Gene Shout, I'm not sure about the writer's name, a good sports writer on one of the, maybe the Daily News, conceived the book and thought it should be given attention. And I think it should have been too. And Luther, my friend, shares the office with me, he's black, so he had no objections to doing this, and it had a good start, but it became diffused some way or other. There were certain things that happened that I could see I didn't think were going to work. Just trivial things. But you see, when you're in that, I was supervising in that case copy work, not the show. Copy work, not the arranging. Copy work. Well, that's where you keep your spot unless asked. If somebody asks you, do you see anything here or there, or tell me in general, like some of the people, the big people I worked with, Victor Young used to tell me, hey Brick, if you see anything, don't forget to tell me if you see anything going wrong, you know, this can help. But you don't go up and talk to a director from a minor position like a copyist supervisor or a copyist principal arranger. And so that show almost had it. It could have been, but you can't cry about that. A lot of them just have little stumbling blocks.
Yeah. Were there any others that you were involved with that were big hits? Or?
Well, Phil Silver's show was pretty good because he'd come off exposure of Sergeant Bilko on television,
What was that, a Broadway thing?
Yeah, it made, it's called Do, Re, Mi, like a music scale, also about money, 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 and involvement in the jukebox racket, and so on.
So
and
you did some, what, arranging? Or
no, I supervised all the copying and that. And I also helped with some of the arranging from trying to keep things from going astray. Things go astray, they get lost. And sometimes it's sabotage, you know. Somebody in a position not having their way. But that one had a good run. Ain't Misbehaving, of course, really was our biggest thing. The work, what we worked on was our biggest success because most of it was Luther's thing. They had the people, they had excellent people, first of all. Only 5 people, which cut their cast expense like hell. And they were very good. One, except there's one that got lost very quickly. But we started out at Bare Walls Stage Theater with just a piano, and Luther was scraps of paper that came out of Fat Swaller's trunk that family had, old print, and these things were kind of stuck together with tape. This is what he worked from. So he created, between him and the 5 people, the successful sound that was successful was created. And nobody else. Except Fat Swaller, which was about his life. I mean, he created the whole thing. But that was our most pleasant one in the beginning. I'm trying to think more. I worked on a lot of shows, a lot of films. And they say, what did you work on? I don't know. Well, from 1334, Guido Tutunoa at Harm's Chapel, something they call it chapel, something, was the main man there that handled copying. And he sent me out on a show where I didn't really know very much, but it happened I did it right by accident, you know. And he sent me on more. And with him, he did all of Robert Russell Bennett's writing and other things of that nature. So that's another, like, starting at the top scene, you know. So I was fortunate. So we just did one after the other. Mostly when they were in trouble, they sent for us. They really did. Well, the shows are just a matter of doing as it comes down by the day, get that done and get it out of the road. If you let it pile up, murder. They're chaos anyway. So, for excitement, they're okay. Money's good, but not as good as the book. No, today, people, the average copyist should be hitting about 150 a day if he's a good worker. And he also gets found money per diems for a maximum of about $85 or $90. So if he wants to save off his food and stuff, he can, so on and so forth. But it took many years to get this going. We had to do a lot of work. This copyist group within the union to get the prices up. They were working 35 cents a page of music. Now you can't write a page of music that's got anything in it in a half hour. So you know, And we did get it corrected, and it's still being straightened out some. It's not all about money, it's also about conditions. We come in the airport here, getting home from sitting up 3 or 4 nights straight through in Boston or wherever, and you get in the airport, you're being paged in the airport. You get off the flight, come back. And this is ridiculous. Shoved around like cattle. So those are the things that are long over. It's too expensive for them to do it. That's the only way to stop abuses, is make it too expensive.
You seem to have worked with black people a lot. Is that just because there are so many of them in the music business? Or?
No, our active field, I guess, is about 500 people that cover this area. New York is one area. Nashville is another area which has grown big, but only recently. Chicago, Los Angeles, and New York used to be the big three. Now it's more New York, Nashville, and Los Angeles. And it depends on their conditions. Because a lot of our people, if they have built a house here and it's hot on the coast, they leave the house and family sometimes and go out there and do a month. You can pick up enough money under extreme circumstances. I didn't like to do that. So I just stayed here. But we had a good 11 months in LA when we were first married. We had beautiful, Susie, where's Susie? She's probably in with Colin. She must be in with Colin. So we'll have to go dry.
Oh, it's okay, I don't mean it.
Yeah, well, so.
Now I was curious about you working with so many black people.
Yeah.
Is that because, just because there were so many of them in the business, or?
No, quite the contrary. There were less blacks working. In the field I was, both the dance thing and in theater. Theater still less.
What, more whites than blacks?
Yeah. From the beginning, there was a lot of bias and prejudice, and naturally somebody sees somebody coming, I got a job here in this chair, and he don't want to see somebody else get it. And some of them are from the South, which is ingrained. Raised, not today. Today, the young people in the South are probably less prejudiced than we are in the North under certain conditions are what create that situation. Once they work together and they see the other guy is going to bite them or something, they become great friends. And not only that, their abilities increase because the different methods that they use to get their notes out in the way they get them out. Everybody can learn from everybody. My friend Rex Stewart, when he was working with Fletcher and Goldcat was on the other stand, they alternating, Big Spider back with Goldcat and Rex with Fletcher, and in between sets it was continuous music due to alternate. But when they were switching off and stuff, they'd get together and think of something and show the other guy, And this is really great. This is more valuable than any kind of education you can get. They're both stars, and so on. No, it was just fortunate that I got contact with Fletcher when I did. In most cases, in the case of Luther Henderson, myself, no more think of one being black and the other white, then never dream of it. I'm probably going to see him tomorrow now and think of it. I'll tell him about it too, he'll laugh. But, no, great experience. Chick Webb's band was a good band. That's where Ella Fitzgerald, as a child, came out of that band as a singer. That absolutely giving all the good girls that we have around. There's still, there's no other Ella. And that's the way it's not a matter of opinion on my part. Everybody will tell you, you know. And there are outstanding people on the particular instrument. Rex was one of the good ones. Stylized. You see, that's another thing due, that I feel partially due to the bias that existed. Black players who worked in public as performers had to use more little hooks, tricks to grab the public. You go out and you're working the people and they're against you, you know, and you gotta have a grabber. And it applies to everybody in life, only in our situation, that period, there was no prejudice against whites.
How did you get that nickname, Brick?
Well, I had lighter hair than Collins, and I stayed in the sunlight, the sunshine, my hair looked kind of pink, you know, like brick dust. And one of my friend's father, I was standing out talking, and I hated it. Because, hey, brick top, you got brick dust in your hair, something like that. And I hated it, so of course, because I hated it, hung on. That hung on from, I was about 7 years old in Hanover, Pennsylvania. And after a while, that's why I became known as Susie is Mary Eileen Wren. And Peggy Lee's first husband, Dave Barber, we were roommates. And so his ears were pink. And she used to call him Bunny. Like that. He hated it. So he thought the worst thing he thought he could call her, he called her Susie. And she hated it. So both names stuck. But we're not under our own names at all, really, just in the telephone book. Yeah. And it's better, really, for business purposes. Brick Fleagle's easier to say than Jacob Roger Fleagle or J. Roger Fleagle, you know. Maybe so, I don't know.
Were you married twice?
No.
No? Oh, I thought somehow I got that idea.
No, we got married to stay. We said, well, I was 27, she was 18. We said, well, it's not going to be one of those show business marriages they talk about. We're going to get married. So it lasted 53 years so far. If she doesn't come out here, it's going to be over pretty soon.
And you don't have any kids? Or?
No. Well, of course, everybody would like to. Also, that was part of our deal. We were not going to have backstage brats. No, because we worked with them. And they're paying themselves, and they don't turn out. I don't know of any of them that turned out well. There may be one somewhere. But most of them are annoyance to everybody, and they're always the stars, you know, because they have more liberty, and they will take advantage. And we decided if we could take care of them properly, but going through the depression and so on and so forth, And we don't really have any, we did what we figured we were going to do, you know. And we can't really sit around regretting something we planned out in the first place. It would have been nice. We were even going to go the adoption route, like if it was too late or something. And that fell through too. First of all, she got working. After she was 46, she stopped dancing, because you have to. The cartilages are all broken. So then she took jobs like sax, altman. And after a few years of that, she couldn't stay on her feet that much. And she had to go for secretary and stuff. So doing that, I had no time to start looking around for children.
What, Susie did dancing
Yeah.
on Broadway plays or
Yeah,
something?
yeah. She was a good dancer. And she also had experience where she could jump in. In other words, a big chorus like Roxy, or Radio City, the Rockettes, and so these girls, all these intricate routines they do, each girl has to know her place at all times. And Susie could jump in and take any girl's, the girls get sick a lot, and she'd jump in and be a swing girl, which is make her more valuable to people. So she did tap, good tap. She had ballet. Those shows, they do everything. You work on rubber balls, you ride unicycles, you slide down on ropes from the wing to the flies, and so that's interesting too. But there's a time coming when you gotta quit.
Where was she? Was she from New York?
Chicago, Lake Forest, really. Her grandparents were Lake Forest. Our folks had a apartment. Her father, garage, Chicago this is. And they had stationery stores both in North Chicago and South Chicago at different times, different periods. And motor courts, and so on. People that could do something. you know, you have to be pretty good with the hands and with a paintbrush and a screwdriver. And not only that, they could do with property. They could pick it up and see that there's possibility of building in it. Most of the things that they got, they sold for a lot more than they bought because they improved them. And things like that. But her grandparents were in Lake Forest. They were Hendersons also, but they were white Hendersons. So she's part Scotch, part Irish, and that's about that.
Do you have any remembrances of growing up as a kid around Hanover? Or?
Yeah. Basically, see, my mother died when I was 7, and she had TB, and that was infectious. So for the last 2 years of her life, I was kept pretty much away from her. So my aunt raised me. She was a music teacher, which all probably had something to do with me getting hung up with music, because all I heard was Beethoven from morning till night. So, which is not bad, but 4 years to 7 or something, a lot of that. And then 7, start go grade school. Then, well, I didn't flunk. I was not brilliant. I didn't skip any grades. I didn't really like it. The only thing I liked was history, the war part of history. And I really dislike war. I think war is the most stupid thing that can happen. I'm sure it is. So I got involved more and more to see, is it possible we can figure some way of stopping this silly crap, you know? Well, I've studied pretty hard. I don't think we're ever going to quit it. It'd be nice, right now, it'd be nice so we can make friends with the Russians. I mean that. I mean, the people are no problem. But the management, they get entangled over all sorts of trivial things, and all of a sudden everybody's out there shooting at each other, and you get killed. So anyway, I don't sermonize on that. It's just, I really hate war, and I don't know how the hell to avoid it. People want to fight.
I guess you weren't involved in either of the...
Well, I was, as far as when this was an embarkation point here, this wasn't very safe to be a civilian. No, the guys were going and they didn't want to go. They were pretty violent about it. Violent. Then, I think it was the 62nd Regiment Armory. We had the Eddie Cantor Band, was a good radio, was developed into television band. So the colonel gets us all over there, and the adjutant says, okay, men, be seated. The colonel comes out, and we're going to have the best band in the armed forces. Fire.
You were playing with that band then?
Yeah, no, I worked that show. I worked about 4 or 5 television shows a week at that time, playing. Then we did several more out of the office. So anyway, the colonel makes his nice speech, and everybody thinks he's a wonderful guy. Gives him a big hand like that. Then the adjutant comes up. Says, now, men, you call at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, you'll be here for drill. So hands go, oh, I got a record date there. Oh, I got a show. So all of a sudden you didn't have any band. That happened. Tartega, the other friend leader, was there too. This is another involvement. The different regiments, colonels, generals, they want to have the best band. So we get him. Okay, he gets great tailored uniforms for everything, you know, every event. I'm going to be, I'm trying to think of the name of the band leader. Anyway, it's a rank, but it doesn't mean it. Nobody pays. You can't boss anybody around. So anyway, I'm supposed to do that. So it gets down to the point we're supposed to go in. We're ready to go in. They look him up. They found out he's still a Mexican. He hasn't finished. He hasn't taken out his final papers. No, this kept going on.
So what, this was for a television program, or?
No, this is for Army, Navy, or whatever.
What, playing for the soldiers who were leaving?
Yeah, go along with them.
You were supposed to go along?
Sure, the same thing Glenn Miller Band did.
But you weren't actually in the Army or anything?
No, I still have my order number. I never had a uniform on. I was accepted for the Navy because I wasn't crazy about going in the Army after a couple of rejects. These things happen. There was some more. There was one and more. These are funny things. At the time, they were so funny. But, well, I get the messages from the draft board, you know. Oh, they let me go to Mexico to play a job. And I'd been put 1A, 4D, 3. I got a stack of draft cards like that. So I said, wait, but if you read in the back, they're not supposed to move you. It's like chess, you got to move to this position before you go to that one, you know. They just jump you over. So, anyway, for some reason or other, I got a job to go to Mexico with, to have a band down there. There was a basis of doing some arrangements for Benny Goodman, who was doing a Western-type ice show at the New Yorker Hotel, where they had ice skating and Western costumes. And the guy that set the arrangements up didn't do anything to suit Benny, because Benny was accustomed to Fletcher Henderson arrangement. So this guy comes around frothing at the mouth. Where can I find somebody who can write exactly like Fletcher Henderson? Nobody. But I was close. So I went down, I did the book. And I was settled that. Benny stopped tearing the arrangements in half. And on the basis of some of that, they wanted me down there. So I went, and I had extensions, options of monthly things, I think. I got every month to stay there. I mean, next month I got more money, I hired for another month. So I stayed for 3, and I figured, boy, I better be getting back there because they might be looking for me, you know.
This was during World War II? Or?
Draft board.
During World War II? Or?
Yeah, World War II. This was about 1934, 33 maybe. Anyway, that's all in the scrapbook too. Anyway, I get back. Oh, and I sent them a postcard from Draft Board 256. I still remember the number. Dear Draft Board 256, having a wonderful time. Glad you're not here. 3 days after I get back, there's a notice in the box. And I go up there. And they say, oh, Mr. Fleagle, we got your card. It was on the bulletin board. They said, please go down to Grand Central Station and take a test. They won't take you anyway. You know? I said, okay. Well, so about 7 o'clock in the morning, sometime after that, I went down. And everybody in front of me was asking for Navy, and the Army guy was stamping the thing. And there was a nice old gentleman, and he said, oh, son, you're calling me son, you know, so you know, so he said, you play with the Eddie Cantor band? I said, yes, sir. He said, tell me, is that his orchestra and stuff? He said, well, not exactly. I said, these are bands that work all the studios. We work the studios, and we think we're providing some kind of a service and everything. He said, well, son, and he's talking to me like a father, and the Army guy reaches over this thing and grabs Navy and puts it on my, stamps my feet. Made me very happy. It's a little neater, you know. So that's how I got into Navy. I got the order number and everything.
But you never went?
Never got fitted for a uniform. And, well, I just assumed, really, I don't want anybody to take my place. Well, on the other hand, the way I saw people, the draft act is very inconclusive as far as in particular. Is Susie down here?
Yeah.
Susie! What are you playing deaf? We could use some ice water or ginger ale or something.
Yeah.
We're running dry.
All right.
All right.
So did you go somewhere with Eddie Cantor's band?
Well, we played all the camps like Monmouth, Dix. We used to pay our own way there. We just say when we're going to go, we go. And he would give them $500 bill down there for gym equipment and things. It was all right. Laughs, but It didn't attract me to the Army, I'll tell you that. No, these guys are standing in line in the hot sun like dicks. Their mama loved me, and the MPs come along, and
What do you want?
some ice something.
Just ice water.
No,
What do you want?
we have tonic out there, I think it's called. No, just ice
Tonic
water.
would be fine. Yeah, I have a glass here.
I can talk long enough on ice water.
Thank you.
And you want just ice water?
Yeah, give me Coca-Cola,
Coke?
since you're darling. So, well,
How about any other remembrances from Hanover as a...
well, Hanover was a very simple process. Number one, my father had gotten me a violin. He got me a silver flute, which I liked. That was beautiful. I played the flute and piccolo some. But I said I want something to blow. I was thinking more like a trombone, you know. So that's when I got the flute. So that was no trombone. But in the meantime, I became a soda jerk, and I was running for track. We had a good track coach, Lawrence Gant, and he made all the kids liked him. He had authority, but you still liked him because he knew what he was doing. So as a soda jerk, I was the best one in town because I'd get the thing like 4 or 5 blocks down to where the people ordered it. It wouldn't even be melting. No, I'd run every direction.
Yeah.
So that helped me with my track, because I got up at 5 in the morning and ran 3 miles every morning regardless of weather, you know. So that was good. And that I got $4 a week for the Hamlet's drugstore. Then I gained a little more maturity, and I got Dave Greenbaum's clothing store, which I was thinking, because I get a reduction on the clothes. I had to buy my own clothes, which is a good idea. So I had nice things. Then they liked me enough that before I went on the road, they told my father, if you have any problems sending the kids to college, we'll send them to college. Lovely people. So then I was $4 a week for that. And that wasn't too bad at that time. You know, you could have a heck of a time with you and your girl for about $6 on Saturday night or something. So you save your money and you go out once every month. But that was all fun stuff. We had good class. 24 was the class. And I gradually lapsed over into 25 because I failed 24. They started me out again, hopefully, and that one I just got a job on the road, and there was no point in going back to there to make money, be a businessman or something, because my uncle was president of the bank, and the fellow that called me Bricktop was a cashier in the bank. They making $75 a week. I was making that in 2 nights. You know, I got to go back and learn that? No, and I was terrible at mathematics anyway. Still am. And apples and half apples is as far as I go. So that was main memories. But I worked for nice people, both Emma's drugstore and Dave Greenbaum. Well, the employers were nice. And you know, I was with the kids, all my classmates, you know. And so it made it more interesting.
How long have you lived here in Queens?
This apartment since 1940. We moved here, I think it was 1940. We were living right, it's only one stop away from here on the Elmhurst. We had a brand new apartment which we loved, and we went there because we were living in a hotel in town, but the World's Fair of 1939 and 40 was coming up, and we were going to do that. We were working it. So a good idea to move close. So we moved out there, then we came here.